Halftime Howie here with Zach Penn. I'll tell you what, I am still on a high from, not drugs, folks, I don't do drugs, but I'm on a high from that World Series. To me, one of the greatest World Series ever. You know, the storylines were great going in. The Cubs hadn't won since 1908. The Indians hadn't won since 1948. So a series with so much hype, so much anticipation. You said, can it live up? It lived up to everything and more. First of all, when a baseball series goes 7 games, it's special. But that 7th game in Cleveland was unbelievable. The Cubs looked like it was in the bag. They had a 6-3 lead with their stopper, Chapman, on the mound. Next thing you know, the Indians tied it up, 6-6. Then, of course, we had the epic rain delay. And then the Cubs got 2 runs. The Indians battled back to make it 8-7. And Joe Madden brought this up, which is, I think, a really cool, ironic fact, that when the Cubs last won the World Series back in 1908, the deciding game of that World Series, the score was 8-7. Wow. So here, 108 years later, they win another World Series game, deciding game 8-7. But it was phenomenal. There was great drama. Somebody made a comment, and I agree. It's not like the Cubs defeated the Indians. It's like they survived the Indians. It was 2 teams that put everything on the mat, took it to the nth degree. It was wonderful for the sport of baseball. You had to feel so good for the fans of Chicago. Many of them went to graves of relatives to say that we did it. And there was actually one fan who I read about who actually listened to the game from his father's grave with a transistor radio because he wanted his father to hear the World Series game. I mean, it was just so emotional. You feel so good. And when they won with the parade, 5 million Cubs fans, it was awesome. Zach, your thoughts?
Well, one headline I saw that really struck me was "A little rain helped the Cubs end a long drought." And that's exactly what it was. The Cubs, going into it, tied 6-6 at the rain delay. Everyone was on the edge of their seat. Even if you weren't watching the game, you were rushing home to find the nearest TV to see what was going to go on in extra innings. And the totality of this match is something that won't be forgotten for a long time. I think it's actually hilarious. Back to the Future predicted 2015 for the Cubs to win the World Series. So they were pretty close. I'm very surprised. The thing that I think is the most ironic about this whole situation is, for Cleveland fans, the 3-1 lead and all the flack that they've been giving the Warriors. Since LeBron James put up a Halloween direction on October 31st, the 3-1 thing, sort of mocking the Warriors for their 3-1 lead that they gave up to the Cavaliers, LeBron James's team. And ever since that, or after that, the Indians did not win another game. And I thought that was really ironic and really sad for Indians fans who were bashing my hometown Warriors, who now, I guess, get a taste of their own medicine. So that, I thought, was very ironic. But you can't, even if you're an Indians fan, you can't not feel good for the Cubs. I don't really like the Cubs personally. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. They ousted the Cubs this year in the first round of the playoffs. So I was pretty upset by that. But the Cubs, they've just been the lovable laughingstock for so long. The team that just couldn't do it. And it started to be the question of, will they ever do it? And this year, they started off so hot. One of the best teams in the league over the first half of the season. And they sort of cooled off and hit a rough patch. And people were like, is this the year for the Cubs? That was the question the whole year. And it really was. 2016, the year of the Cubs. I think that any Chicago fan has to be riding this high of baseball. And I think that young fans in Chicago are going to start playing baseball, going to keep watching it. I know baseball's ratings have dipped in the last few years as it's become less of a mainstream sport. Some people question it's not as exciting. There's 162 games. The games are insignificant. But I think this series really brought out the true passion of baseball, and I think it ignited a lot of young people and old people to come together and really watch the sport for the purity of the sport. And I think that is going to boost the ratings of baseball and the young kids that are playing baseball for the next few years to come. And I think that's a really special thing if you can have that happen.
It was actually the highest rate in 25 years.
And how about this? Theo Epstein. This cemented him as a Hall of Fame executive. At the age of 28, he was named the general manager of the Red Sox in 2003. They win a World Series in 2004, breaking an 86-year hex. Wins another World Series with the Red Sox in 2007. Comes to Chicago in 2011 and says, we're going to change the culture. We're going to build a winner. And when it had sustained success, and people kind of looked at him kind of funny. In the first couple of years, they lost 100 games, 2 years in a row. They were pretty bad. But he stuck to his plan. He didn't deviate. He gutted the whole team. And in his 5th year as the president of the Cubs, they won a World Series. So to break an 86-year curse, hex, whatever you want to call it, in Boston, to break a 108-year curse in Chicago, to do it in both cities, no doubt Theo Epstein is stamped himself into the Baseball Hall of Fame immortality. And I truly believe this, that the Cubs, with their core of young talent, from Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, Kyle Schwarber, all young, all 27, 22, 23. This could be a dynasty in the making. We could be talking about the Cubs winning 3 or 4 championships in a row because they're young, they're hungry, and they might be the team. This could be the next dynasty in baseball.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned all those young names. One of the names that you forgot that I think about a lot is Jason Hayward. When he came to the Cubs, that's when I thought, wow, the Cubs are putting something together dynamic, because Hayward's the kind of player that is top 5 in the league every year in defensive runs saved, a really underrated statistic that shows that he's one of the best fielders in the game year in and year out, maybe the best center fielder in the league. So I think that that whole team, they just coalesce so well. Their players are young and they're having fun, and they have the mix of old talent that, like Ben Zobrist, the MVP, just a clutch utility man who's going to give you on-base percentage year in and year out. No one could have anticipated Jake Arrieta just having an amazing career renaissance these last couple of years. So I think the Cubs are an amazing mix of youth and experience, and they're an amazing mix of where luck meets skill. So I think that that's something that I don't think luck you can necessarily measure, but skill, I'd say they're one of the most skilled teams in the league easily, and they put themselves in the right position to win. Getting Aroldis Chapman, even though he technically almost gave up the series, allowing that 2-run home run to Rajai Davis, I think that he was a key part of their team. All sorts of acquisitions that they made in these last couple of years, they wouldn't have won without them. So I think the Cubs knew what they were doing, and they knew that these next few years they had a title window with their young core, and they really sold out, and they get what they deserve, a victory after 108 years, which is just exciting for even me, who doesn't care about Chicago sports at all. So it's exciting to see this entire thing go down, and the aftermath of it for Cubs fans, I'm just really happy for them.
Awesome. And I believe, Zach, you have a little more to talk about in the report.